Brenda DeVita.
Hi. These are actually really fun. Hi, welcome to the porch.
We've been on this porch many a time.
We have been
in a non-performative version.
interview kind of thing.
Non-interview.
I have interviewed you on this porch before.
Have you?
Maybe you might have interviewed me. We've had many crying sessions on this porch too.
We've had many crying sessions. A lot of problem solving.
Yes.
Actually, I would say more than anything.
Yes.
Problem solving.
Yeah. And we always have a good time talking.
We
In fact,
always
we
do.
like the problems on some level.
Yes.
A little bit.
Yes.
I think. I mean, you like to solve problems.
I do like to solve problems.
Me too. We are like in a lot of ways.
I'm learning during this time there are many problems I cannot solve.
Oh, right. Yes. Now back to this interview. This is actually really fun. Okay, so I want to ask you what your first memory of APT is.
Actually, my very first memory of APT is before I knew about APT. I spent 6 months living in, or 9 months living in Chicago before I got into grad school. And I was with some friends who said, let's go up to this place called American Players Theater. And it meant nothing to me.
Mm-hmm.
I was 20-something. And we drove up. I drove us up, actually. And we saw, I think it was, we were one of those people that I see now when I'm performing who like come up the hill halfway through a show.
Oh no, you're those people.
Yes, we didn't even know. I was like, what's going on? Oh, there's a show going on. And Craig Spidel, is that his name?
Oh yeah.
He was in a show, because I remember meeting him later.
That was like mid 90s.
It was yes.
It was mid 90s.
It was mid 90s, I bet.
It was 1995. I think he was in Merry Wives of Windsor.
I think it was. It was Merry Wives of Windsor, and it was 1995.
That's hilarious.
So I saw a little bit of that, and I remember thinking, what is this magical place with the natural dugout, the amphitheater, and it was full bloom, and it was packed, and it was beautiful. And I remember like putting that in my little file folder, thinking, someplace I'd like to work someday. Still not really knowing if I was going to be an actor, But my big memory from that day was that we were driving back down to Chicago, and we were heading towards the toll booth, and the brakes went out in the car.
Oh my God!
So I'm like, oh, guys, there are no brakes. There are no brakes. So we skidded not skidded, we coasted just, and figured it out. But that was my first memory of APT.
Really lucky to like just coast to like no collision.
Yes,
no
it was
brakes.
very lucky. And then my next memory of APT was just meeting David Frank and being incredibly impressed by him. I fell in love with him immediately. And then talking with you on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And then coming here. And my first year here was absolutely magical. It was my first year, Carolyn Herdeman's first year, Tracy Arnold's first year, Sarah Stellick's first year.
Wow.
I mean, it was it was a wonderful birthing of friendships and history.
Wow. What year was that?
2001.
Was it that many? I didn't realize I was here that many years before. When was our escapade in New York?
2002.
So you were here for one season, and I came to New York to say, come join our corps.
Brenda DeVita came to my teeny little, this big apartment.
It was the size of this porch.
And I didn't have an alarm clock, so we had to call an alarm service to
You're
get
like,
us up.
no, we can call an alarm service that will wake you up. It was like 3 a.m. or something. I had to go on the flight at like 5.
We might have been drinking.
I don't know.
No,
Were
we had
we?
you had auditions.
Oh, that's
So I had to get up. We had to go to these
That's
auditions.
right. That's right. Oh my God. The next thing you're gonna be is late for the auditions because we were out drinking. When did you know you wanted to be here long term? Like when did you say, I want to work here. I want to be here.
I think it was that year. I don't really operate, as we all know, too much in the future. So I don't think I thought I'm going to put roots down. I really am a sort of like, kind of wherever the wind blows kind of person,
Right.
which is why it was strange to have that feeling. I felt at home here the first week.
Why?
I have been living in New York, and I have been loving New York. So in a way, I think that actually sort of fed this surprise coming off the plane and seeing all this green. You know, I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, which is very green and very beautiful, but also spent a lot of time growing up in Ireland. And having the green rolling hills, I just never thought I could be in a place that was so beautiful and be really digging my teeth into this kind of work.
Mm-hmm.
Have it not be like a stock theater kind of company. Have it be really challenging. And
Talk about what stock theater compared to
So-
what you're.
I mean, not to
No, but
speak disparagingly of stock theater, because so much of theater, that kind of theater is American theater, and I think it's really important. But some of the time I've worked in that kind of theater before, where it's just summer theater. You have about 2 to 3 weeks to prep your show or shows, and then you just put it up really quickly. There's just not a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
And also, because they're not resident companies, there's not necessarily a shared vocabulary. Here, there's really, you step into history. You step into a way of working, whether you like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the way we work is always changing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like it's set in stone, which is the other thing that I think that was really important about being here, was that I felt that this APT took me in as I was, and was flexible and responded to me, and took in those actors. And every group of actors or directors, I feel like we're very flexible toward, and we work with the way people like to work. However, there is a kind of history of really digging into the text. There's a history of using craft
Mm-hmm.
to project. There's a vocabulary of craftsmanship that we use to really take the text and bring it out in a big space to the theater, and to be clear,
Mm-hmm.
and to be also authentic, hopefully, and in the moment. So it didn't feel like that, you're just rolling in someplace for the summer and rolling back out. It felt like an absolute commitment in terms of time, because you're here for 5 months.
Right.
But also in terms of the kind of work that we were doing, it took so much time. It was, I didn't just show up for rehearsal and then forget about my day. It's the kind of place where I would get up in the morning, study what I had to study, go to work. It was really, really hard and sometimes very frustrating, sometimes tearful. Go home, think about it, work on it, and then go to my show. And so it was really all-encompassing,
Right.
which I loved.
So you like the kind of effort it took.
It took a lot of effort, yeah.
And
But it was really rewarding. So
Why?
it was, well, first of all, we're all in it together. I think there's an ethos here that is definitely, it's not dog eat dog. We're all in this together. There is also a sense of, I remember we talked about it really early on, this, what's the word, open mind, what's the word? Not already knowingness.
Oh, like a new what's it called when you have a beginner's mind?
A beginner's mind,
Right.
all the time. So I felt like I was working, when I was here and young, I was working with people who were directors and some actors who were very much more seasoned than I. And yet I found that they, too, were constantly going, I don't know how to do this moment. And we'd all be surprised together when we came up upon something. I think partly it's because we're not in the city with bombarded by critics and newspapers and people who already know.
Uh-huh.
People really do want to be entertained, and people really do want to be enveloped into the ideas of a play. And not just, check that box and then go to dinner. I felt like, so the people I was working with were like that, but also the audiences I felt, once the audience came here,
Right.
I
Everybody talks about that. Sits in
I
that
don't
chair.
know how to explain it, but I remember like the first show, I remember being backstage for Ring Around the Moon.
Gosh, that was a good show.
And so at the time we had
Hi guys.
the barn board. Hi guys. We had the barn board with the holes in it.
Oh right, you could see through.
So
and watch the
So
audience.
insects and rodents would like eat their way through barnboard, and you could be backstage and go like this. And I remember watching these, 1,000 people. How many people sit up there?
Well, now that 1089, I think, or something like that. But it's like it was 850. I think around 850 at the
Everyone
time.
doing this or laughing all together, and I had just never experienced such a responsive audience.
Right.
It felt like the way I imagine NBA players passing the ball to each other, and the crowd going "Wah!" or like
Yeah.
Premier Soccer or something like that. It was really exciting. So all of that work seemed really rewarding.
I remember that when you did Shrew, and we called it a rock concert because that I had never seen it. I mean, I'd been here for years, and the audience was always terrific and interested in leaning in and laughing. But that show was sold out all the time, and it was raucous in that house. And you guys were just like, you'd come off stage after that show, and you guys would be like,
I mean, really, it's better than any drug. It really is better than any drug. And it just feels so
not that
organic.
you've done any of those.
Well, and I can understand why some people, some of
that's
those
a drug,
great actors, they go off stage and they want to drink and do drugs because you want to keep that going. But, luckily we were here in the woods, so we were
go
just
outside
like,
and see the stars.
yes, and that's actually part of it. You would come off of that experience, and you'd have to, with the audience, walk down to your car, underneath the stars. It was really a yin-yang of human joining together to make something really, wonderful. And then this sense of, human in nature by oneself. Is that yin and yang, which I think is, oh my gosh, it's just...
Yeah, I remember the first time I always tell this story about seeing Romeo and Juliet, and when the first season I was here, and like I'd never been with so many people kind of like laughing at first, and then gasping, and then crying, and then the lights went down, and everybody went,
Yeah.
I looked at the sky, and I just was like, I can't take this. I mean, it was so obvious. I mean, the kind of communion that was happening was so different than anything. And I think I could never separate it from the sky and
I think
the
that's
surrounding.
part of it, because I don't think that necessarily we performers were always the ones who were the generators of whatever that was.
Yeah.
I remember once doing Measure for Measure, and Isabella, at the end, she thinks her brother is dead, and then he's revealed. Claudio's revealed, and I remember that moment. I loved playing that moment, seeing my brother, who I thought was dead. But I think there was something extra about it being in the fresh air and under the stars. It's very late in the play. It's very at the end of the play, so there's the stars above us, even though we've got the theater lights. And we, Ken Alvarez, may he rest in peace, God bless him, had staged it so that many of the players were in the stairs, in the bombs.
Yeah.
And it was Wayne T. Carr who told me, when that happened, this woman next to me lost it. She lost it. She was weeping and weeping and weeping, and her husband had to comfort her. So obviously she had had something in her past that triggered that, and I'm hoping it was cathartic. But I remember thinking that night after he told me, that wasn't just me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just Dara Kennan who played Claudio.
Yeah.
I remember I'm having chills right now. I remember thinking, there's something about being here and hearing the whippoorwills and hearing the cicadas and being under this blanket of stars and hearing the trees constantly murmuring. There's something that gets into your fascia. I think it really does connect you to everyone else sitting in the seats and everyone on the stage that doesn't necessarily happen in a cement and metal box. It box.
Yeah, I have to say that it's cheating a little bit sometimes, in the sense that when we talk about shows, I can never separate the the feeling of watching a show from the event of watching. In the Touchstone, I can much more. Like, I can be much more acutely aware that it's about the play. You know what I mean? It feels great in there because it's the audience is this big, but up the hill when you're halfway back, it's not that same kind of event. It's an accumulation of things.
You know, when I'm in the Touchstone, I often have that experience where it feels like it's just me experiencing the play, and that's a great feeling. I think that's important. It's a bit like submerging yourself into a novel. I mean, that's a great feeling. But I remember this moment in Cherry Orchard when Tracy Arnold is speaking to Paul Benson, and it was just, it was a moment that was unspoken, where he's telling a story, and she is eating a cucumber.
I remember that.
And she stopped and looked at him. And I remember being really moved by her being moved, but also realizing everyone is moved with me. I could see everybody taking it in.
Yeah. It's a different feeling. It feels like church.
It's not better. It's just, it was different from what I had experienced before.
It's not better. It just feels more full body. I always think it's like a full body experience, an event. Not, it's going to be all of it.
Mm-hmm.
All of your body. It's just interesting. John Lange's, when he first worked here, I went to ask him to work here again. And I said, and he said, yeah, it's amazing. It's a little like walking through fire out there to work. What do you think he meant by that?
Well, I think when you're working outside, there are so many more environmental sounds and weather patterns and other life forms that we have to deal with, not to mention the space. You know, not having that box, it means that we really have to somehow get that sound out there without yelling. Mm-hmm. So it really does take that diction, and it really does take that. It is really an athletic experience, having to be that clear about what you're saying. So not just word by word by word, but to know that character's point of view. To know what's going on internally with that character. So that comes out. Otherwise, if it's word by word by word and every word is clear, it still is
emphatic. Everything's
emphatic, which was something I did a lot when I was first here.
You called, like, what they call bludgeoning every word.
I hammered every word.
Yeah. Because you want to be really clear.
Because I wanted to be very clear.
Yes.
I used that diaphragm and I really projected, I think. You know, I think I did it pretty well, but I don't know that you could really understand exactly what I meant.
Yeah.
You could understand what I was saying, but not what my character meant, or what was driving, what was the why behind what I was saying.
The human part.
The human part. So I think that's what is the walking by fire. Walking through fire? By fire? On fire? Some preposition. So I think that is it. The space and all the things that might happen.
It's so funny because I think that has to do with your perspective, because you said when I started this that you felt kind of home immediately and that you felt happy in the first week. And I think that that's a very Colleen perspective on things, because I think that that's a general joy that you bring with you. For those people that are a little more internalizing every thought and feeling, I think, and I think John, for me, had a lot to do with the room he was entering as well. The kind of work and the people were so good and so challenging. That's not how that seems to you, which I think is a really beautiful, indication of who you are and why that's what you. I do think it was you know what I mean.
Well,
You used to
also,
go to that girl from New Girl.
Novelty.
Jess.
Thanks.
Anyway.
Novelty is always my friend. I'm one of those people.
Exactly.
You know,
Me too. Yeah,
if it's new, I'm like, I got it. Once I'm, it's a few years under the belt. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm actually that's when I begin to doubt myself.
That's when you get nervous.
Then I begin
call
to think.
the 2.5 week, 3 week rehearsal.
Usually
Colleen.
3 weeks in or 3 months in, I think I shouldn't be an actor. Pretty much
Every show. By the way.
Every show.
Every show, Colleen. This is something to know about her. So it makes her brilliant. Every show.
I'm going to be a social worker.
Anything.
Going back to school.
I should start a clinic of some kind. Maybe we should have a school for kids. I mean, and it's interesting because it's like clockwork. And when people go to direct you, I always say, okay, there's going to be a time.
Yes, where she'll go away.
And she'll just decide that everything she's doing is terrible and she wants to change it all. because she's bad and she's terrible and no one could ever really think she's any good. It's amazing. It's like a mechanism in you to keep yourself like.
Yeah, the last couple of years have been
You've been better. Yeah, they have been. You did a little bit with Billy though. You had only a couple days.
Yeah.
Where you were like, is this really? I don't think this is really working.
Yeah.
I think this, and I was like, what?
And sometimes I don't even know. I think with Billie Dawn, I didn't know even that I was changing, because I was changing things, making her a little harder.
Yeah.
And I remember, this is one of the great things about working with your director who lives just down the street, is that don't tell Equity, but she may or may not have come to the show a few times. And at the bar later, sidled up to me and said, hey, listen.
You said all three and go, no. What do you got? What do you got?
That is totally what I do.
What do you got? What do you got? No, I don't care.
Still at the bar. Still at the bar
though.
But I will. But that was good. You gave me those great notes. Like, keep her. It's the joy. It's not that she's not wearing the streets on her.
No.
She's got that joy.
But yeah. But you are singularly the most open. One of the most open actresses I've ever known.
Thank you.
Of course. I mean, I say that. You're just open. You're just open. You're able to take in so much.
Yeah. I think, like anybody else, the moment I get scared, I go, come. But if I'm not scared, or if I recognize that I'm scared, but I'll deal with that later, I can do that. But I think being a director is a very different thing from being an actor. When I walk into a room as an actor, yes, I'm walking into the room. But if you walk into the room as a director and you know that you're going to have to be individually dealing with everybody's personality and dealing with all of their neuroses and all of their fears, whew.
Yeah, it's fun though.
Yeah,
I do. But I mean, I'm really fortunate that I get to work with people that I can usually guess at some level what's happening.
Well, yeah, you're very intuitive, I think.
But I also get to know you. I know many of you. And I get to cast with them.
You are that dangerous. You are intuitive and you care.
Oh, that's
tough.
Trick.
Because if you don't care as a director, you're safe. You just put it out there and let us all cry in the dressing room.
Yeah, most directors decided that you guys didn't like them anyway, so that's not true.
No,
they're all as scared as you are.
Yeah, they're all as scared as we are.
Okay, what have you been most proud of? Here at APT.
Well, boy, that's hard. I mean, I could go on and on and on. I am speaking of. I don't have a most. I am really proud of Billie Dawn.
Yeah.
I feel like we made somebody so unlike me, as far from me.
You were so good.
It was so much fun, including the body, and it was just so much fun. The Syringa Tree, of course, I'm really proud of. I mean, that was a marathon. I don't think
if we had one show that everyone in the whole world wishes that we could do again.
Yeah. I wish we could not do it again.
Yeah, I know. And there was times when I would bring it up to you and be like,
I'm not ready.
I'm not ready to take that on.
We've talked about doing it, like I could see myself doing it now that I'm less of a frenetic person.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this is, I don't know
time for that.
No,
Please.
I don't think.
For our telling that story.
I don't think telling that story is not, I think that story is
been told
by one person. Right, we need to tell other stories now.
Yep.
Let's see, what else? I love doing Ariel in the Tempest. I was really proud of that.
Yeah.
I was really proud of Doll's House.
Oh yeah, that was so much fun too.
That was really, really, really fun. It was really something I've never done before. I've mentioned 2 of your plays. I better mention some other people's plays.
So what outside of your work, what are you most proud of? APT.
Outside of APT or
no? Outside of your own personal work.
Oh my gosh.
What's that? Whatever that is.
I'm so proud I'm so proud of this place. I feel like it's a dream that I actually work at a theater that is vibrant, that has a real, thriving, very rooted place in a community. I mean, I know that Ashland is like that. I have never been to Utah. Jake's, I'm assuming that has got that. I'm sure many theaters are like that. So I'm sure I'm not alone in having that feeling, but I'm really proud of that. I am really proud. I feel like, and this has nothing to do with me, but I feel like the company, APT, the administration, the staff, is really responsive to those of us who work. I always felt heard. I feel like most of us feel heard.
Mm-hmm.
And I even know, I can think of times where people didn't feel heard, but I know they were heard.
Right.
And that, ripples were created and lots of conversations and meetings happened. I think we take a lot of time here to talk about things and to wrestle through things. Not to make everybody feel better, although that's important that people feel good about what they're doing and feel good about the end result. But I think so that people feel ownership. I feel that's really what it is. I feel that most of us who work here in any capacity are given space, are given permission, and in fact we're requested to take ownership, responsibility of our piece.
It's one of my favorite parts of our ethics document is that you're responsible for your own work environment and the work environment of others and how that works. That you're responsible as anyone else to make that what you want it to be. And that you make sure that we're giving you the tools to do it. And if we're not, tell us what it is you need that's stopping you from that.
Right.
And that's hard, and it's hard to discern, but it's also a really worthy pursuit to figure that out. It's a worthy
pursuit, especially because I think if you're asked, what do you need? And if I say, I don't know what I need, then it's on me.
Yeah, then we aren't going to be able to provide it. So tell me, we can't provide something you can't define.
It's hard to blame the institution if I'm being asked for a menu of what I need, and I can't provide any of that.
Right, and I do think that takes trust, that they're actually that the needs will actually be taken seriously. I think it takes trust to believe that it's a sincere question. I think it takes time, and I think that's partly what you're talking about too, as far as people are here long enough over time to create that kind of trust environment. You don't have to come in for 10 week and take ownership of something for 10 weeks. It's really hard to do.
Right. So when 20 or 30 new people come in, but there's 15 people who have worked here long enough, who have that relationship, then it's easier to really, I think it's, I can say to my new coworkers and castmates, no, you really can go into Brenda's or Mike's office or Sarah's office, and you can really say, this isn't working for me. It will be listened to, and something's going to happen.
That's good to hear. What do you wish you could do over? Do over!
Boy, well, this is my language because I always want to do everything over. I'd actually like to do Pygmalion over. I was so terrified of doing Eliza.
Why?
Well, she's iconic. I think doing anything iconic for some of us feels like there's more pressure. I feel like I want to fulfill everybody's internal view imaginings of Eliza.
There's Audrey Hepburn too.
Yeah, not a fan lady. But there was also the dialect. I really had to learn 2 dialects.
Right. You're really good at dialects. You have a good ear for them.
And Shaw is really hard. I mean, Shaw, I've always said that I think Shaw is harder than Shakespeare.
Most people that have done both believe that.
Yeah. So, dialect, iconic character, Shaw. I think I was just so scared.
That last act is a really hard act.
Yeah.
Right? That last act.
Yeah.
The whole coming.
All of it was hard. I mean, really, even that first act when I'm first meeting Higgins, that should be sort of easy. I mean, because it's always lovely to play a character who is doing something for the first time and maybe a little fearful or nervous, because you can bring your fearfulness and nervousness in.
How has APT changed you as a person?
How has it changed me? Oh my gosh. That's an amazing question. How do I start? I'll start with the little things, or that seem like little things. We have this spoken on our ethics document. We say that we are each allowed to be badly behaved when we're upset for 24 hours, but then you've got to clean it up. And that seems like a little thing, but that's been seismic in my life.
That's big.
It's big, but also allowing yourself to have a tantrum. Allowing myself to not feel great about something. Knowing that I've got to clean it up in 24 hours, or knowing that I've got to do something in 24 hours, either clean up a mistake I made or go to that person and say, look, I'm unhappy with what happened. It already, it presupposes these feelings will pass. Like, you know, 24 hours later, there's something is going to happen, that this is going to pass. So that sense of impermanence of feelings.
And I also have that after a while, I know that the 24 hours are going to have to happen and I'm going to have to clean it up, so I'm less likely to make a huge mess. The huger mess. You know what I'm saying? I used to be able to make a huge mess. And now I'm just like, okay, do I have the energy to really clean this up? Is it really that important to make a huge mess right now?
Well, here's a story that's not really about me, and I'll change all the names. Someone I was working with, I was backstage, ready for my entrance, and we were rehearsing on stage. And it was a very hot day, and there were horseflies around. It was a very difficult scene. And the director had asked for some very almost gymnastic kind of thing to be happening while the text was being spoken. And there were two people on stage, and one of the people lost his or her temper and was swearing. And I heard the director say, well, I think rehearsal's over for today. Lost the temper. That person came backstage, there was a bunch of Dixie cups, and knocked those Dixie cups, and they went flying. And I'm quite close to this person. And I was sitting backstage, and I remember thinking, it's okay. That person is allowed to have that feeling and that response, because that is an authentic response. Maybe it was amygdala driven, but it was an authentic response, and that person will come back and clean it up tomorrow.
And they did.
And they did.
Of course. They did. Of course that person. I know who you're talking about. So.
Yeah, so I feel like it helps me in that moment where I wasn't freaking out about someone else's baggage.
Right.
I was like, it's going to be fine.
Okay, we're all about words at APT. We say that all the time. It's language driven. We have language, words where they matter. The words matter. What's your favorite word?
Oh, what's my favorite word? What's my favorite word? I wish I'd been prepped.
No, this is why you should know.
The word... can I say a bunch of them?
We can say one.
Oh, dang it.
Pick one.
Discombobulated.
I love that word too.
It's a good word.
It's on a sign at the Milwaukee airport.
Oh, really?
Have you ever seen it?
I don't think it's in any Shakespeare plays.
I don't think it is either.
But it's a good word. Discombobulated.
Discombobulated. It's actually on a sign that says here to discombobulate yourself or something like that.
Yeah.
After you walk through the thing. I love that word too. What's your least favorite word?
Din.
That was easy.
I have this pet peeve. These words that don't sound.
Din.
Like, for instance, what's the word? A cataclysm. Sounds like a cataclysm.
Yeah.
Din.
Perpetual sounds.
Din. No, din to me sounds like tin. It sounds like a little.
That's what I'm saying.
As opposed to a lot of noise.
Oh, you think it sounds like
din, din, as opposed to din, like lots of noise. I think it sounds not noisy.
I think it sounds noisy.
The
din sounds noisy
din.
to me. Doesn't sound as noisy. Tin. I can't make tin sound noisy. I can make din sound noisy. Din.
Din sounds like it's sort of innocuous, as opposed to constant noise. That's the word I don't like.
I love it because you said words that are actually just the word. Some people in this question do that. Other people are like, it's really meaningful word. That means something really. It's so funny. I love it. You're like, what's other words you don't like? And you said there's so many. Favorite words.
Favorite words I don't like.
No, favorite words you like.
Favorite words I like. I like the word aphorism because it just sounds, it's good in the mouth.
Aphorism.
It sounds like an aphrodisiac, but that's not what it is. Aphorism.
Aphorism.
It sounds important, and it is important. It's an aphorism, Let's see.
Like propitious.
Propitious. That's a good word.
I like that.
That's a good word.
It's a good word. I try to find places to use it.
I like words that really sound like relegate. I'm going to relegate that, you know, I'm going to move that over. It's relegated to
one more word you don't like.
Another word I don't like. Oh gosh, I actually have them written down somewhere.
Oh, you do?
But I have to remember them now.
That's so funny. Of course you do.
I don't know. I have to think about it again.
Okay.
Now.
So if you could give yourself, this is your last question. If you could give yourself as a little girl one piece of advice,
Oh my God.
what would you say to yourself?
Well, that's easy. I run a lot, so I think about these things when I'm running, and I think about my boys, my 2 boys. And I remember I used to think if I could tell myself as a little girl, now I think if I could just, I think we all do this with our kids, if I could just get them to, I would say to myself as a little girl, and I would say to my boys now, make mistakes. It's okay. Really, just throw yourself into it, even if it doesn't have to be a big, bold thing, even if you're throwing yourself in to really be observing instead of protecting yourself all the time. I think as a teen, in college, in my 20s, even someone in my 30s, I was trying to protect myself from making mistakes. I was trying to protect myself from getting hurt. Someone said to me the most important thing he learned from martial arts class was getting hit was not end of game.
Mm-hmm.
You get hit, it doesn't even necessarily knock you down.
Mm-hmm.
You just got hit. You don't even really feel it until the next day. That
You don't really even know how to defend yourself, the actual point of it,
just get hit.
without getting hit at least once to figure
That's
out
right.
how to learn
How
to
to
defend
I mean,
yourself.
I think it's hard to even know how to be loved until you've had your heart broken a couple of times.
Right. Or how you want to be loved.
How you want to be loved. So I think that would be, be kind. And be kind to yourself. Don't hurt people. Like, live your life fully and make mistakes. Thank you.
It's lovely.
Yeah. We can do this for another 2 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, wait,
Exactly. We could just we did pretty good for time.
Where's Jimmy DeVita? Garcon?
Jim? That's not happening.
Thank you. I love you. Thank you. Bye. Goodbye.